Welcome to Home Dad Chat, brought to you by the National At-Home Dad Network. My name is Brock,
My name is Danny.
and we are here to talk about life as stay-at-home dads. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
No, I don't want much. I even love handmade crafts made of macaroni. Come on now, you should know me. Times I might eat too much. No worry about my weight. Got the dad bod rocking on me. Sketches on my feet. Cargo shorts look good on me. I'm a dad, that's what I do.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the show. Sorry, it's just Danny today. For those of you who don't know, Brock has been at the hospital with his son H. There's been some issues with his sodium levels. Right now, everything looks good. He was definitely struggling for a bit, and love to hear that you're on the mend there, H. Really, really worried about you for a while there, and I think you understand that you have a lot of people that love you and that we're caring for you and praying for you. So, at this point, Brock has been at the hospital for I think 5-6 days, and you kind of lose track of time. So, talking with him this morning, it was just easier for me to take over for today, and we'll see how we do. We have a guest coming in that I am really looking forward to talking to. I've spoken to him previously at a meeting with the board on him coming to our convention to speak on the autism spectrum. And autism spectrum disorder, ASD, is a big subject for a lot of our parents, and it's something we really want to try to address properly. Unfortunately, looking at someone like myself who doesn't have a child that's really on the spectrum, it's pure ignorance at this point. So we looked for someone that is a professional, and we have Neal Lichter coming in today. He is with Pathfinders for Autism out of Maryland. And I really think you're going to enjoy listening to him. One, he's a good speaker. He's got a lot of very funny things that he does and says. And his presentation at the convention is going to be amazing. Not only informative, but also really gently developing it for everyone. So we're looking forward to that. And we'll get Neal on in a minute.
Become a member of the National At-Home Dad Network, an organization focused on providing advocacy, community, education, and support. Connecting with households where dad is the primary caregiver of the children. We do this through our webinar and podcast series, mental health support groups, regular online social events, as well as our annual convention. The National At-Home Dad Network is a 100% volunteer organization. Without the generous support of its members and the community around it, we would not be able to continue the work that we do. Becoming a member gives you access to past convention speaker presentations, the ability to vote for board members annually, and ensures that the organization's fees and bills are in positive standing. Oh yeah, it should not go unmentioned that there is some cool swag headed your way if you decide to become a member. For only $35 a year, your membership provides you with the exclusive content only we can generate, and you'll be supporting an organization that benefits families all around the country and world. By advocating for them, offering them community, providing education and guidance, and supporting them to grow in their parenthood journey. And one last thing. If you contribute $500 or more, you will become a lifetime member. Not only will you receive everything already mentioned, but also a certificate recognizing your status and an exclusive National At-Home Dad Network challenge coin with our trademark logo, Dads Don't Babysit. So, what are you waiting for? Become a member today.
And welcome back to the show. There we go. Obvious technical difficulties because Brock is not here. He's definitely the man that handles all the logistics. But on this morning again with Neal Lichter with Pathfinders for Autism out of Maryland. Is that right, Neal?
Yep, Baltimore, Maryland. How are you? Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're listening, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not actually talking, so.
Well, good day to you. We're really glad you're here. We've
Glad to be
talked
here.
previously in the intro, just briefly on what you're going to talk about today, that you're
Mhm.
one of our speakers at the convention. First off, I want to
Sure.
say thank you for coming to our convention sincerely.
It's an honor. Thank you guys so much for inviting me. It's really a pleasure to be able to come out and present to a group of people who I think I share a lot in common with about an important topic. So I'm happy to be able to come out and present. I do a lot of stuff in and around Maryland, so to be able to go somewhere outside of Maryland is always exciting and a good opportunity for our org. So we're glad to do it.
Yeah. We got introduced to you through one of our board members, Chris Griffin. He lives
Yep.
out your area, and I believe he has a child that's on the spectrum.
Mhm.
And he brought up some very interesting points that other dads have mentioned. It's how do you handle certain things when it comes to spectrum disorder, and a lot of us don't know. We just simply don't know. We have an
Right.
idea of maybe what it was or what it could be, but
Sure.
especially the day-to-day moments
Mhm.
is something that a lot of our dads really need education on. A big part of our network is the community. It's being
Mhm.
able to go talk to someone and someone that knows what's going on or that has been
Mhm.
through what you've been through,
Yep.
that mentor type mentality. So a lot of what I've seen from your organization, which is amazing, by the way, I love your website. You've got
Thank you.
so many, especially free resources for
Yep.
parents.
Yep.
And for all of our listeners, that is pathfindersforautism.org.
Yes.
So feel free to go there and find out just more information that I knew that I needed, honestly.
Sure.
It
Sure.
was amazing.
Yeah. It's a pretty deep website. It's
It
we don't
is.
tell people to just jump in and start digging. And if you're just diagnosed or something like that, it's best to reach out to our helpline or through our contact us page. But I think um, you said something before about community and family and that support. And I think that's really the heart of what Pathfinders for Autism started as, and that's what we strive to be today, is that we're for families. We're for individuals, autistic individuals, of course, but we were started by families, for families to have more resources, more information, more access to support, more access to providers, more access to therapies and ideas and treatment plans, and support. And the idea that um, you're not alone in going through what you're going through. And that sort of comes to the heart of what we are, is that we do these great events in and around Maryland and these free workshops and these free webinars, and everything is free. We don't charge for anything we do. It's right into our mission statement, that everything we do is free because we want people to have opportunities for access to resources, because anything that's going to possibly restrict access is not going to get you the information you need. So we're gonna, or the opportunity for you to have. So if you're afraid to come to the aquarium in Baltimore because it's $50 a person and you don't know how your loved one's going to react, we have a free night at the aquarium and you can come out and it doesn't cost you a dime to get in. And if
Wow.
you make it 10 minutes, okay, you make it 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But it doesn't cost you a dime to get in. Or maybe you need to go outside and cool off for a bit and come back in, which on a normal day at the aquarium, you're not allowed to do. On our event, you can go in and out 100 times, nobody cares. We just give you opportunity. We want you to take the opportunity and take the chance, because it's not only a fun night at the aquarium, but I mean, I have like 1,500, 1,800 people come to that event. And when you come to that event and you look around and you go, I am definitely not alone.
Yes.
And I have people coming from all over the state to come to those events. And it's a nice feeling. So I agree. I mean, that whole piece of community is a big deal to me. And we hear a lot in the line of work that I'm in, and the resources I have, is it's autism moms a lot. Autism moms handle a lot of business, and but we're out here too,
Hmm.
autism dads, and we handle a lot of things too, and we handle day-to-day things, and we handle a lot of information, and we need resources and things like that. And I think when I present, and I'm going to try and not give any spoilers away for what we talk about in October, um, but when I present, I'm hoping that if you're a parent who's got a diagnosis that happened a week ago, if you're a parent who's got a 19, or excuse me, mine's 20 now, like me, who's been going through it for the whole life and think you know everything, I think our presentation can give those, we call them aha moments in our presentations, where you think, oh, wow, I never thought of that, or maybe I should try this, or there's something I can go home with. I want you to go home with stuff that you can use from St. Louis. I want you to go home and say, hey, let's think about using this, or to talk to your autistic loved one or to your partner or whoever it is about the person you're the caregiving for, of, hey, what about this? Let's try this. And it's funny, and I'm rambling. I apologize. I love
No,
what
it's
I do.
fine.
So,
Yeah.
but Chris Griffin, I think Chris's wife saw me at a presentation at a school in Frederick and went home and said, this guy would be a great speaker. So go check him out and talk to him. And we've seen the Griffins at a lot of things now at our events, and I'm always happy to see them. But that's the idea, is that I'm not clinical, I'm not a doctor. I'm just going to give you an idea of things from a perspective that maybe you don't typically get that perspective from, because we're always talking to doctors or speech therapists or OTs or teachers, or sometimes people who are talking up here with language that's hard to understand. And we hope to make it a little bit easier. All of the resources on my website, like the articles and things like that, that's not Maryland specific. So everybody who's all over the world and all over the United States can certainly check out the resources we have. And we tell our authors, listen, it's not an infomercial. It's informational, and it's got to be written. Well, you got to fit everything you need to say on the front and the back of a page. So make it easy for moms and dads to understand. And if it comes back too confusing, we tell them, no, that makes sense. We're going to get too many questions that this is going to generate. So answer them before they generate. So
Yes.
we really try and make it good for folks, and we bring the same perspective everywhere. So it doesn't matter who I train, who I talk to. I don't like train, teach. Police officers. I'm a licensed certified police trainer. I train a lot. I think I trained like 1,900 police officers last year. We trained firefighters
Wow.
and doctors and nurses, but teachers and lifeguards and camp counselors and rock climbing instructors and school bus drivers and anybody who wants to learn more. And I can't come to a police officer and talk down to them like I know more than they do. I'm
Yeah.
right up front with them and say, I don't know how you all do what you do, so I can't tell you how to do it. But here's some things to think about when you're interacting with someone who may be autistic or may have another intellectual developmental disability, Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, Tourette's, fetal alcohol syndrome. They're all developmental disabilities, just like autism spectrum disorder. So there's a lot of common characteristics that we talk about looking for. And that's going to be really what the center of the presentation is in October, is surrounding these 4 common areas. How they impact your loved one, things to think about, ways to communicate, and other things to think about. I don't want to get too details because,
Yeah, of course. We don't want to spoil it.
Ruin all the good parts for October.
I do
Everyone's got to
want to,
come out and see us.
right? You have to come out and get the real
Absolutely.
gist. I want
It's
to
much
say,
better in person.
well, I have to say, I admit, Neal, you were great on our last
I
call, and I'm
appreciate
like,
that.
this is fantastic. I can't wait to hear this guy talk.
Well,
So,
to be fair, I had a lot of practice during the pandemic of presenting this presentation on a virtual platform. So we had to pivot pretty hard
Right.
during the pandemic,
yes,
where officers and doctors and schools were saying, listen, we still want the training, but you can't come see us. So how are we going to do it? So we figured out how to do it. So it works well, but I love that interactive live connection of
yes.
being in front of an audience.
I think everyone understands that face to face is going to be more impactful. It absolutely is, no matter how good it is. I wanted to talk for a minute about one of the resources that I found on your webpage, which you talked about making the information presentable to just about anyone. And the page that I was looking at is parent tips on explaining autism using everyday examples. This was amazing. This was amazing. It was so direct and simple. The verbal one got me immediately because a lot of our loved ones can be nonverbal or have difficulty with that. And it talked about, have you ever had a bad case of laryngitis? And it talked about how it's just frustrating not being able to say what you mean to say or ask for the things you need. And I love the point, but you were still processing information and your intelligence level certainly didn't change. And I think that's something that's very difficult for a lot of people to understand, because if someone doesn't speak your language, you automatically assume, well, they're an idiot. And that is not the case at all. Having gone overseas just once, I went to a couple of countries, Germany in that area, and I recognized this person doesn't speak English, but this person is far more intelligent than I am. It's quite obvious when you're talking to them, right? But having that understanding of, what if you had laryngitis? What if you couldn't do that? And if you think about that being your everyday and how frustrating that could be for you, and then imagine one of your loved ones having to deal with that. Right. And there's so many good examples on that, just that one page. The resources are phenomenal. And the fact that you have really distilled them and answered the questions, like you said, before they come up,
Yeah.
I encourage anybody that is listening to this who may not be coming to the convention to definitely take a look at your page, because again, it's not my children that I'm necessarily concerned about,
Mhm.
but what about other people's children? What about the playground? What about the library? What about at a
Mhm.
restaurant? And I have kids, so I recognize that children don't do what you tell them to do, and they don't act and react like you want them to. And especially a child that has a little bit more of a more difficulty with those things, especially like overstimulation being a very good one, like you mentioned at the aquarium.
Mhm.
And the idea that, well, your kid can't stand in line for 15 minutes. No,
Mhm.
no, they can't.
Right.
And, I have trouble with it. I just have ADHD. So mine's really, really
Sure.
manageable. But that overstimulation, I walk around with earbuds in my pocket
Yeah.
and just earplugs. And I put them in every once in a while because things just start to get there. And I have the ability to do that only after having learned, right, and
Yeah.
been taught. In the same way that you said that you're teaching people, both people that work for you, and I
Mhm.
love that you're going with first responders,
Mhm.
because the my wife was a cop for a very long time, about 14 years, and her ability to talk to people
Mhm.
that were on the spectrum was amazing. But she was very, very specifically trained. She went out
Yeah.
of her way to figure out, well, wait a minute, if I run into this again, what do I need to do? um, had a man that picked up, I mean, and this is a full grown man, bigger than her, picked
Mhm.
up a very large rock and threatened her with it. And the reaction for a lot of police officers, unfortunately, the way we train them is pull your gun.
Right.
Just get ready to take that person's life if you have to, because
Yeah.
that person is threatening yours. I'm very proud of my wife, of course. I love her very much, but she said, "No, you put that down," and he did.
Yeah.
And it wasn't anything overly aggressive, although I'm sure my wife had her, let's say, cop face on. She
Mhm.
was, if she needs to protect herself, she would have. But the understanding of what mental health is, and a lot of the things with ASD and all the other
Mhm.
things that we look at, that
Mhm.
training that you're giving first responders, I have to believe is incredibly beneficial. Have they responded to you with that? How do they look at it? Because police officers can be a little, I want to be nice and say arrogant. And I love a lot of
That's
police
a
officers.
nice
I
word.
truly
That's a
do.
good
So
word.
it's a little bit arrogant.
It is, and I mean, uh, I love what I do. I really do, and I think it's a very beneficial training that we bring all over the state, and we do go all over the state of Maryland. It's every level of the police, whether it's the kids coming in through the academy, and I say kids, but it's the people coming in through the academy, because I had a 38-year-old officer in the academy class the other day who changed of career, and I was like,
Oh,
okay, so I guess I
good
can't
for
call them all
them.
kids, but
Man, I
good for
can't
you, and
imagine it. 38
yeah.
going through post. Wow.
Yeah, I was like, really? He's like, yep. I'm like, I'm gonna check in 10 weeks and see how you're doing.
Yeah, let's go.
But in service, laterals, all over the state, we're training every officer that we can. I think it's been overwhelmingly popular and well received by all the police forces where we would deliver it. I can't train, um, the jerk, let's say, out of everybody.
Hmm.
I can't promise you that every officer is going to listen to me, but we've had quite a few officers who do come up afterwards and express their gratitude, who have seen me more than once and say, I love this training. I definitely think of it when I'm on the street. I've had situations where interacting with people with calls and communication, and how communication is impacted by autism and anxiety and things like that. Um, we had a tragic situation in Maryland the other day of a young 6-year-old autistic boy who wandered away from home and unfortunately drowned. But we were speaking to officers afterwards, and they were saying that every officer the officers who were responding to the call had all been through our in-service within the last few months, and were referencing things we had said. Think of the way he communicates, and think of how he
Hmm.
processes and how sensory, and they were all talking about things on scene that we had mentioned. And I mean, it's a horrible situation, and it ended
Yes.
tragically, as a lot of wandering cases do. 71% of wanderings in the autism community end up 71% of deaths related to wandering are drowning related. It's all
Hmm.
over. Uh, it happened right here around the corner, not 20 minutes from where I'm sitting.
Mm.
But the officers were talking about our training. So it's nice to hear that it's coming into play. We're spreading the word as much as we can. And I do hear good feedback. I really do. And I'm going to go out and talk whether they want to listen to me or not. And I overwhelmingly, I think I get a lot of really positive response. And with the prevalence rates, what they are with autism spectrum disorder, I mean, nationally at like 1 in 36 boys, 1 in 27 nationally. Plenty of officers come up to me afterwards and say, "Hey, I've got a kid on the spectrum," and you know, and I'll ask them, "Am I right on?" They're like, "Yeah, man, you're right on." And you said stuff I didn't think about, and that's where I'm like, "Okay, we're connecting, and they're thinking about it, and it's a good feeling to do." So I'm proud of the work we do and the program that we put on and that we offer to police and all over the state of Maryland. Yeah.
As you should be, really, sincerely. I
Yeah.
just having talked to you and looking at the website, it's amazing the amount of stuff that I've learned just in a few minutes of looking at it, and the recognition that we
Yeah,
have that
it's
okay,
deep.
it may not be me, but I have loved
Right.
ones who have loved ones that are on the spectrum.
Sure.
You know, Chris being one of them. He's
Sure.
an
And
amazing
going back to
person.
that, yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah, and going back to that, explaining autism using everyday examples article, I mean, that is what I tell people. Listen, this is what you hand to Aunt Mary, who doesn't understand why your kid doesn't talk to her at Easter dinner. And you hand this to her and you do it nicely. And you say, read this. And this might explain why he has a hard time coming up to you in the middle of a crowded room with a lot of noise and connecting to you right away. Give him some time to cool off and get acclimated to his surroundings. And he's going to be a lot more comfortable and maybe easier to communicate with. And you can still say hello to somebody, even if they don't communicate verbally to you. They'll clock, and maybe they communicate to you with sign language or pictures or holding out your hand or giving you a pound dog or whatever it may be. We talk a lot about presumed intellect, like just because somebody might be rocking and flapping and clapping or stimming or singing, doesn't mean they don't hear you, understand the words you're using, don't have feelings. I don't want you to look at somebody who's heavily impacted by a disability and go, well, I can't, they don't need me to communicate. They don't understand. That's just not true. And that starts things off on a negative interaction as opposed to that positive interaction. So that's an article that we talk about, given out to the little league coach who may not understand exactly why it's a little harder to get your kid to stop picking at grass in the outfield, which every kid does in little
Yep.
league.
Every single one.
I did, because it's boring out there. And when
Yeah.
you're in little league as a little kid, nobody hits it out there anyway, but that's not important. But you give it to the people who may not understand what they see, may not understand that behavior is communication, may not understand that anxiety creates behavior, things like that. So those are some of the things we talk about, what we cover in October. Those are some of the big points, but I think anxiety creates behavior is not a big mind-blowing thing. And I think we think about that every day. But not everybody understands how anxiety is created and what creates it and the impact it has. And you use that example, Danny, of things get too much, you're able to reach in your pockets, grab your earbuds, stick them in your ears. But what if you're not able to communicate and process the anxiety? How do you deal with it? And think of what you would do if I told you every time you reach in your pockets, put your hands in front of you, your hands don't belong in your pockets.
Yes.
But you're just trying to get to the help you need to advocate for yourself. And I'm going to restrict that. You could see eventually where it blows up. So that's what we talk about a lot. I mean, I think that's really, as a dad of a now 20-year-old who was diagnosed at 2.5, learning that anxiety creates behavior was eye-opening. And that's we center our presentation. That's who I don't change that for anybody I talk to. I tell police officers and doctors and nurses and anyone who listens, listen, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but I'm telling you for this population, it's not as simplistic as, okay, I can deal with my anxiety. It becomes more difficult. Language processing takes longer, communication processing, sensory processing, emotional processing. It's all impacted when your anxiety goes up. And we talk about how that comes out and how it shows itself. I've got some great experiential exercises and audience participation stuff that we do. I always forget to turn off my do not disturb. Wrong buttons all over the place. I'm pounding now on my phone. Okay, I think I got it. If not, we'll hit the right button that time. Sorry.
No
But yeah,
problem.
I'm so excited to come out there. I really am. Never been to St. Louis. So I'm excited for that.
Oh, good. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
going to be a great venue. I don't know
yeah.
how much time you'll have in town, but there's some amazing things.
I'm going to hit
Um,
as much of it as I can.
good, good, good.
And I'm excited to come out and present. And especially to this audience. This is an audience I don't think I've ever had one just dads.
Hmm.
I've had dads in my audience, of course, but never something that's been specific to just us.
Hmm.
So I'm tweaking some stuff and throwing some slides in and figuring out things we want to do and say. But I'm excited for it. I'm excited for this opportunity, and I'm glad to be invited.
Oh, absolutely. We're looking
Yeah.
forward to it. One of the things I wanted to ask you about,
Mhm.
as a parent, anything that our child has to deal with, we're dealing with in a way. But one of the things that I would think about, if my child had been diagnosed, do I tell them? And if I
Mhm.
do, how do I tell them? How do I phrase that? Now, I know you know these answers, and I kind of know them from reading your thing, but I'd love to hear your tips or suggestions on, okay, so if my child is ASD
Sure.
or what have you, how do I
Sure.
address that? What do I do to make them understand and be comfortable with it?
Yeah. I think like a lot of things with what we'll talk about, there's no one particular rule. It depends on your loved one. It depends on their level of comprehension. It depends on the questions they're asking. If you're constantly getting asked, why am I different? Why am I sticking out? Why am I having such a hard time? There's an opportunity there to say to somebody, well, this is what's going on. This is how your brain operates a little differently. This is why we do some of the things we do. And you can sit down and talk on that level. And we have a parent tip on our website about talking to your child. And the first thing it says is it really does depend on the level of your child's um, comprehension of certain
Hmm.
things. Explaining something that's as complex as autism can be very difficult for some. There may be articles that are better ways to do it. There are some great books out there that we have resourced on our website. My son, for example, doesn't really wonder or question. Um, he just goes about his day. He never, I'm fully prepared for when he says to me, what is autism? And he said, and be able to sit down with him, but sitting down with him and explaining it to him, it's not going to sink in right away.
Hmm.
We've had brief conversations about this is why, this is what makes you upset, why you get so upset. This is why we work on reducing our anxiety and doing our breathing and things like that, because your brain gets you from 0 to 100 way faster than my brain goes from 0 to 100. I said, so that's how your autism impacts you. It impacts the way you communicate and how you struggle sometimes to come up with your words. Um, but it's going to be different for everybody.
Hmm.
It's going to be different for your loved one and your comfort level and how you communicate as a dad or as a parent. Um, Maybe it's better to find, to try and work with a pediatrician or a teacher to try and come up with a social story that you can look up and find. There's a lot of ways to communicate information, and that information happens lots of different ways for people. Um, and finding that right connection, knowing your loved one and what their level is. One of the things I learned was um, wait till questions are asked sometimes. Offering up too much information unsolicited can be misconstrued, misunderstood, and misinterpreted. So maybe waiting for them to say, why am I like this? Or why is this happening? Or why do I struggle? Why don't I make friends so easily? Or why looking for those opportunities. I wish there was one particular answer.
Hmm.
But there's lots of different resources out there. And that's the good thing about who I work for is that I have one opinion. My coworker who's got a son on the autism spectrum, she might have a different way to go. And we all just go to our website and say, here, check out these resources because I don't want to tell you, this is what Neal thinks.
Right.
And Neal is one person who views the world through what I like to call Max goggles, which are the way I understand my son.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
so I get his autism better than I get anybody else's, but
Hmm.
I have a little bit of perspective about it. But everybody's different.
Hmm.
And you may see me present and go, well, my kid doesn't deal with any of that. Okay. I appreciate your audience and I appreciate you listening and I hope you get something out of it, but there's going to be something hopefully to connect with everybody where they can go, okay, I like that. I think about that. And then just to bring more people to pathfindersforautism.org. I mean, find what you're looking for.
Hmm.
Reach out to our helpline, reach out to our email, to our resource center coordinator, Nikki Stokes. And Nikki's the mom of a 19-year-old nonverbal autistic young man who's amazing. and does amazing things. Just met the governor of Maryland last month and was breaking ground, holding
Wow.
a shovel next to him. It was amazing. Um, and she's got a million resources at her fingertips that she can offer you to bring you that information and those resources, no matter where you live. Because potty training is potty training. It doesn't matter if you're in Maryland or Wisconsin or Singapore. Potty
Yeah.
training is potty training. So yeah, we got lots of people who can bring you that information and access that resource for you.
And I don't think I could agree with you more when you talk about the individuality of your children or your
Yeah.
loved one in the case, because I know that's true with every one of my children.
Mhm.
Everyone is different. I can't deal with any of them in any respect
Right.
the same way. You can't have
Right.
one rule that's going to go for all of them. Well, I should
Correct.
say you can have, our number one rule is keep yourself to yourself. Okay.
Correct.
So everybody can follow that one. But realistically, what motivates them, what encourages them, what discourages them, and
Mhm.
all of those things is very individualistic. And
Right.
I love that you bring that up because the understanding of how do I help my child? And that's what every parent wants.
Mhm.
That's all they want. That's the broad spectrum. How do I show my child love? How do I handle the things that they're going through and help them through it
Mhm.
individually?
Mhm.
You look at there's a wide range of resources, but there's no one answer for every
No.
child or
No.
every loved one, I should say. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to use loved one, but being a dad and most dad focus, I keep saying child. But I
Sure.
love that you use loved one because the understanding that this can be this reaches
Grandparents.
everywhere. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Grandparents, siblings, aunts and uncles, foster parents, adoptive parents, um,
Mhm.
caregivers, whoever it may be. Um, and professionals who interact with, it's a boss who has an employee who's interacting. We talk to employers all the time about how, okay, you've hired an employee, they've identified as somebody with autism. What can you do? How can, maybe you've hired this person and go, okay, great, glad to have you on board. Oh, you have autism. And now you go, what do I do? What does that mean? What am I supposed, well, you're
Right.
thinking Rain Man, and this is a person who's absolutely brilliant, who's fantastic on a computer, but absolutely struggles to communicate, doesn't understand sarcasm. Where do you find the opportunities? So yeah, I mean, it's really, it's not a cookie cutter disorder by any
Mm-mm.
stretch of the
By any
imagination.
stretch, yeah.
One of the common phrases you hear in our community in the autism families is you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. That's it. Max is individualized and unique. And what de-escalates Max doesn't work for my older son, who's not autistic at all. He's just 23 and knows everything. Um, so parenting is completely different for them, which has been pointed out to me throughout the years because a consequence to my older son is means nothing to my younger son,
Mhm.
and vice versa. I can never take something away for a week from my autistic son because it's a time concept that's too mind-boggling for him.
Mhm.
It's forever. An hour is torture. For my older son, no, you're losing a phone for a week.
Right.
Because that's where you're going to connect with, and
Mhm.
it's been pointed out to me regularly. It's not fair, but I don't like fair. Fair is a horrible term, and fair. See, you've always been you have to be fair, but with this community, it's everybody needs to get what they need. Not everybody has to have the same thing.
Mhm.
It's Max needs what he needs. My older son needs what he needs, and I got every opportunity to give him that. But they don't always get the same thing and aren't always going to be treated the same way.
Mhm.
So I tried to dispel that myth right away with my older son. Like, listen, you all aren't on the same boat, so
Oh,
it's a
right.
different situation for him. And I know it doesn't seem right, but I'm dad and I'm making the choices, and but it applies to, you'll have teachers in school who have said to me during Max's lifetime in school, well, if I do that for him, I have to do it for everybody. It's like, okay, so do it for everybody if everyone needs it. But Max
Right.
needs it. So if Max needs it and maybe two or three other kids need it, great. But what's wrong with just, well, okay, maybe it's a tiny bit more work, but it's going to get him what he needs to be successful.
Mhm.
And it's those frustrations that I know that parents, I mean, if I say the letters IEP for families, individualized education program,
Yes.
all of a sudden you're getting goosebumps up your arm and you're getting a
Yep.
little PTSD.
Yeah, you
You're
guys, you're right.
putting the
Yes.
war paint on your face and you're ready to go into
Yes.
battle. But these are the things we hear in meetings and you have to advocate. And I'm a very loud, my wife, who is a special educator and way more knowledgeable about this stuff than I am. We were very loud, squeaky wheels as far as advocacy goes.
Mhm.
And going back to pathfindersforautism.org, there's so many resources on there to help you learn. We put a whole lottery of special education acronyms, because that whole IEP, there's one process, is nothing but acronyms in special education. And
Yeah.
they throw them around at meetings and you have no idea what it means. So we want you to walk in with a dictionary. I also want you to stop a meeting and go, hey, wait, I don't know what you're talking about. You need to stop, things like that, but
Yes.
more resources for
Yes.
families, because you don't know what you don't know. And I think sometimes one of my personal weaknesses is I think, well, I know, I'll figure it out, but I had to learn right away, especially with autism, that find a resource that has the information at your fingertips so I can save you time. So if you're like, well, what's the deal with behavior? Why are they melting down? Instead of just Googling something, like go to Pathfinders and look on our website, put it into the
Mhm.
search bar and find that meltdowns article that I have. Um, Whether it's a total meltdown or non-compliant, it's all behavioral, I think it's called, or something like that. But that's what we're there for. We want to cut the steps for you, for information, and be that resource library that you're looking for. If you are in Maryland, DC, Northern Virginia, parts of Delaware and Pennsylvania, I've got a provider directory on there where, I mean, the reality is I can't just walk into any dentist, any barber, any little
Mhm.
league team, any church. If I have a loved one who's loud, who's noisy, when my son is happy, he's loud. When he's sad,
Mhm.
he's loud. When he's mad, he's loud. He's just generally loud. Um, but in a church, in a synagogue, in a house of worship, that's sometimes, oh, he
Yeah.
can't be in here. That's disrupt. I've got a list of churches, synagogues, religious places, mosques. I had a couple I added last week. I was so happy that they added themselves. Um, but places that are open and willing to have your family come, because isn't that what worshiping's about for a lot of people? It's about family.
Right.
And if your family's not welcome, what are the chances you're going to go? It's
Mhm.
certainly the reason I don't go to the place that I was raised anymore, because I was told he's too noisy. So, okay, well, if I'm not welcome, if he's not welcome, I'm not coming.
Exactly.
So you go to my website, you go to my directory, and you go look for a dentist, or you put your zip code in, and I'll send you a list of dentists who are around where you are: barbers, little league teams, church groups, recreational groups, doctors, therapists, anything. All that's the most Maryland specific stuff we have.
Mhm.
But yeah, lots of good information there.
Well, I want to close us out just a little bit talking, you give everybody the information. Again, it's pathfindersforautism.org.
Mhm.
There is a helpline, which
Yes,
I think is very valuable. There's a
it
lot
is.
of information there that you can read, but sometimes you just need to listen to
Yes.
someone tell you these
Yeah,
things.
that's where you reach out. You could talk to Nikki. There's a good chance you'll get me or my coworker Trish. I'll give that number out for you. It's 443 330 5341. And that gets you right to our helpline that rings to either Nikki's desk or Nikki's hip when she's not in the office. She forwards it. She's a brave woman who forwards things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's there to get people the information that they need, the resources. But if she's not here, we all cover. And I've done her job. And Trish, my coworker, who's the deputy director, started as the resource center coordinator. And we're not a big organization. There's all of 6 of us right now. But we do a lot and we hire some really good people. So yeah, check us out. That website is pathfindersforautism.org. You can check us out on all the social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram and X or Twitter or whatever it's called these days. LinkedIn. We've got a good YouTube channel where we put all of our webinars that are also stored on the website. So we put our information out there. Sign up to our mailing list if you want. You'll get some regular parent tip article emailed once a month. Information. We're doing a virtual bingo, which is certainly not regional. We give away little prizes, Pathfinders for Autism swag or Amazon cards, and it's fun. I'm the bingo caller. We have a good time with it. Free to register, free to sign up. It doesn't matter where you live. I'd love for you all to join us, and you can check it all out right on pathfindersforautism.org.
Awesome. Well, Neal,
Thanks.
again, thank you so much for
My pleasure.
one, coming on the show. Really
Sure.
appreciate that. But two, being willing to come out to St. Louis and talk to our dads face to face. I think
Yeah.
you're going to love our community because your community is the same as ours in that it's a passion thing. This is something we're passionate about, and obviously you're passionate about what you do, and I think it's really going to be a good blend. I think you're going to meet some amazing people there.
Yeah, I
Even
see a
more
lot of
so than
commonality.
I do
see a
too.
lot of commonality because I'm on the Facebook page now for the group, and
I saw that. Yeah.
I see a lot of common themes, and I see some autism dads posting questions and things like
Yes.
that. So
And
I
we
know,
have they themselves are ASD or their children, and ones
sure,
that we've had the question come up, and it's been 5-6 years ago, and someone said, well, what about me? Basically,
yeah,
you're doing this thing, what about me? And
mhm,
we all looked at it and kind of went, oh, crap.
yeah,
We're not nothing right now. We didn't even think about it,
yeah,
but we did have things for children, for,
mhm,
the people's children. Hey, well, this, your kids are doing this. And it was very pointed question. And I
mhm,
love that it was so just forthright and honest, and also a little brutal,
yeah,
which I think is how they probably communicate normally, and that's for they themselves. Is like,
yes,
what about me? And I love that question and what
mhm,
it did to spur our organization
yes,
further in so many ways. But the commonalities that I see, not only with people raising their kids as you
mhm,
have, and I can't wait to hear more about Max, because you
mhm,
gave us some stories previously, and
yes,
we love stories about kids, of course.
yes,
But getting to understand that you're truly in that, but then also looking at people who are they themselves dealing with it.
mhm,
That's a wonderful thing. And I
yeah,
really can't wait for our two communities to get together. I think
yeah.
you're going to have a great time in St. Louis.
I can't
Um,
wait.
you know, so,
I'm really
and
looking forward to it.
all right. Well, we want to tell all of our listeners, thank you for being with us today. We really appreciate everything, and looking forward to Brock coming back next week once his son is hopefully out of the hospital today or
Yes,
tomorrow.
absolutely.
And we'll see you next time.
Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
I'm a dad, that's what I do.